There are some sentences so strange that your brain refuses to understand them. You hear the words, you know the language, but your mind simply refuses to believe someone actually said them. For me, that sentence was, I want to share Leo. My best friend Elena said it over dinner. Not joking, not laughing, not drunk, completely serious. My name is Veronica Hayes. I'm 34 years old. I've been married to my husband Leo for 3 years. And until 6 months ago, I believed Elena Brooks was the closest friend I had ever had. We met during our first year of college. Two awkward girls sitting alone in a sociology class. She made a joke. I laughed. And somehow, 15 years of friendship began. We survived everything together. Bad relationships, job changes, breakups, family problems, apartment disasters, the death of my father, her difficult relationship with her mother. For years, Elena was my person. The friend you call at 2 in the morning. The friend who knows your secrets. The friend who becomes family. At least that's what I believed. Leo entered my life 5 years ago. We met through co-workers. Our first date lasted 6 hours. Our second lasted 8. Within months I knew. He was kind, patient, funny, the type of man who remembered small details. The type of man who made people feel safe. When I introduced him to Elena, she seemed excited. Very excited. At the time, I thought she was simply happy for me. She asked him questions, remembered things he said, talked to him easily. Honestly, I was grateful. Your best friend, liking your partner feels important. For years, everything seemed normal. Elena attended our wedding, helped choose decorations, cried during my vows, gave a speech. She called Leo the brother she never had. And because I trusted her completely, I never questioned anything. Looking back, the signs existed. Small things, things that felt harmless. She remembered every detail Leo mentioned. His favorite coffee, his favorite food, his favorite movies. She bought him birthday gifts that somehow felt more personal than mine. She occasionally texted him directly. Memes, jokes, articles. Nothing inappropriate. At least not obviously. If we hosted dinner, she always sat beside him. If he spoke, she listened more carefully than anyone. But friendships create blind spots. You don't expect danger from people you love. 2 months before everything exploded, Elena started changing. She became emotional, restless, more intense. Sometimes she'd stare at Leo while he talked. Long enough for me to notice. Long enough for him to notice. One evening after she left our house, Leo said, Is Elena okay? What do you mean? I don't know. He looked uncomfortable. She just seems different. I dismissed it. Work stress, family issues, depression, life. Elena had always struggled with anxiety. Her relationship with her mother was complicated. She often felt lonely. I assumed she was going through something. What I didn't know was that she had already been sending my husband messages. Messages he never answered. Messages I knew nothing about. Then came dinner. A perfectly normal Friday night. Wine, pasta, music. The three of us around our kitchen table. At first, everything felt ordinary. Then Elena put down her glass and said, I think we should share Leo. Silence. Real silence. Leo looked at her. I looked at her. She looked completely serious. What? She smiled. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I laughed. Honestly, I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. I loved him before you married him. The room became cold. What are you talking about? She looked at me as if I were being unreasonable. I get him sometimes. You get him sometimes. She said it casually. Like dividing vacation days. Like sharing a Netflix account. Leo slowly placed his glass on the table. Elena, that's not happening. She looked surprised. Actually surprised. Why not? Because I'm married. She frowned. But I met you first. No, you didn't, I said. She ignored me. I've loved you longer. Leo looked genuinely uncomfortable. Elena, I don't feel that way. She shook her head. You're scared. No, you are. She turned toward me. If anything, you should share him with me. My heart started racing. Because this wasn't drunken behavior. This wasn't attention-seeking. She believed it. Completely. You've never even dated him, I said. Because I was being nice. Her voice became louder. I stepped aside. Leo looked confused. When? She ignored him. I let Veronica have her happiness. I stared at my best friend, the woman I trusted for 15 years, and realized I had absolutely no idea who she was. She reached across the table, grabbed Leo's wrist. He immediately pulled away. "Don't touch me," she smiled. "See? That's passion." "No," I said. "That's him being uncomfortable." She stood, her entire body trembling. "I've been waiting 5 years. 5 years." The number landed heavily. 5 years. Watching us date. Our engagement. Our wedding. Our marriage. 5 years. 5 years of watching you have everything I deserve. Her voice cracked. And I'm still being generous. Generous. She actually thought she was sacrificing something. "I'm letting you keep him part-time." She slammed her hand onto the table. Most women would simply take him. Leo stood. "Elena, you need to leave." She ignored him. "I'm trying to make everyone happy." I finally stood. "No." The room became silent. "No. No." I looked directly at her. "This is insane." Her expression changed. The emotion disappeared. The tears disappeared. Everything disappeared. Only anger remained. "If you make me the enemy, you'll regret it." The words felt wrong. Too cold. Too serious. She grabbed her purse, walked toward the door, stopped, looked at Leo, and quietly said, "I'll wait for you." Then she left. The front door closed. Neither Leo nor I moved. The entire house felt different, like something invisible had entered with her. Leo finally spoke. "What the hell was that?" I had no answer, because my best friend had just asked to share my husband. And somehow, that wasn't even the worst part, because 2 days later, she would appear on our doorstep carrying groceries. And my husband would finally show me the messages he'd been hiding for 8 months. 2 days after Elena walked out of our house. She came back, not crying, not angry, not embarrassed. She arrived carrying grocery bags. I saw her through the peephole and instantly froze. Leo came up behind me. "Is it her?" I nodded. Neither of us moved. Then she knocked again. "Veronica, I know you're home. Your car is in the driveway." Her voice sounded gentle, almost normal. "I just want to talk." Leo shook his head. I agreed. We were not opening that door. "I brought groceries," Elena called. "All your favorites. The good yogurt. That expensive olive oil you love. Leo's protein bars." She paused. "I just want to apologize for how dinner went. I came on too strong." Came on too strong. As if she had simply interrupted a conversation. As if she hadn't asked me to share my husband like furniture. I stayed silent. Leo stood beside me, jaw tight. Elena knocked harder. "Come on, Veronica. Don't be childish. Let me in so we can talk like adults." Still nothing. Finally, I heard her sigh. "Fine. I'll leave the bags here." A few seconds later, bags rustled against the porch. "The yogurt needs to go in the fridge soon." Then, softer, "I love you both. I just want us all to be happy." Her footsteps moved away. Her car started, and only when it left the driveway did I breathe again. I opened the door. The grocery bags sat neatly on the porch. Everything she mentioned was inside. My favorite yogurt, the olive oil, Leo's snacks, a bottle of wine, and tucked into one bag was a note. "I'm not giving up on us. Lovey." I handed it to Leo. His face hardened. "We throw this away." "Yes." But I didn't move, because something inside me already knew this wasn't over. This wasn't an apology. This was proof she still believed there was an us. A few minutes later, Leo suddenly said, "I need to show you something." His voice sounded different. Ashamed. Afraid. He pulled out his phone. "I should have told you sooner." My stomach dropped. "What?" He opened a message thread. Elena. Hundreds of texts. All from her. None from him. The first message was 8 months old. "Hey, just thinking about you." Then another. "I had a dream about you last night." Then, "Do you ever wonder what life would be like if things were different?" I kept scrolling. The messages became worse. More emotional. More desperate. "I know you feel it too. You can't hide from me forever. Why won't you answer me? I love you so much it hurts." My hands started shaking. The most recent messages were from 3 days before dinner. "I'm going to tell her soon. We can finally be together. Just wait for me." I looked up at my husband. "How long?" 8 months. His voice broke slightly. "I blocked her twice. She used new numbers. And you didn't tell me?" "I know." He looked miserable. "I thought if I ignored her, she'd stop. She was your best friend. I didn't know how to tell you without destroying everything. For a second, I felt angry. Not because I thought he had done anything wrong. Because I'd been living inside a lie. My best friend had been obsessing over my husband for almost a year. And I had no idea. Leo grabbed my hands. I never answered. Not once. I swear. I believed him. His fear was too real. His disgust was too real. But that didn't make the situation less terrifying. We need screenshots, I said. All of them. He nodded. While he saved everything, I walked through the house. Something felt wrong. Not obvious. Not dramatic. Just wrong. In our bedroom, I opened my closet and stopped. My clothes had been reorganized by color. I don't organize by color. I organize by type. Shirts together. Pants together. Dresses together. I called Leo. Did you do this? He stared at the closet. No. A cold feeling moved through me. We checked the rest of the house. Books were arranged differently. Photos on the fridge had been moved. Bathroom products were switched around. In the kitchen, the spice cabinet looked completely different. Small changes. Careful changes. The kind you might miss if you weren't looking. But now we were looking. She's been here, I whispered. Leo turned pale. She has a key. I had given Elena a spare key the year before when Leo and I went on vacation. She had returned it. At least I thought she had. Now I wasn't so sure. We searched the house. Drawers. Cabinets. The bedroom. The office. That's where we found it. Inside one of Leo's folders. A photo from our wedding day. Me. Leo. Smiling. Happy. Except someone had drawn another figure beside us. Elena. A crude sketch of her face. Standing next to us. A heart drawn around all three of us. On the back, one word. Soon. Leo sat down slowly. This is insane. I took a picture. Evidence. Because suddenly this wasn't just friendship drama. This was stalking. 3 days later, I came home early from work. I had a headache. My boss told me to rest. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed the front door wasn't fully closed. I had locked it that morning. I always lock it. I texted Leo. Are you home? He replied immediately. No. Why? My hand shook. Front door is open. His reply came fast. Don't go in. Call the police. But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe because part of me already knew. I pushed the door open carefully. The smell hit me first. Garlic. Rosemary. Something roasting. Then I walked into the kitchen. And there she was. Elena. Standing at my stove. Wearing an apron I had never seen before. Stirring a pot like she lived there. She looked up and smiled. Veronica, you're home early. I couldn't move. She smiled wider. Good. Dinner's almost ready. For several seconds, I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even understand what I was seeing. Elena stood in my kitchen. My kitchen. Wearing an apron. Cooking dinner. As if she belonged there. As if none of the previous week had happened. As if she hadn't asked to share my husband. As if she hadn't spent months sending him messages. As if she hadn't left strange notes in our house. She smiled again. You're early. My voice barely worked. How did you get in? She looked genuinely confused. The key. The key you returned? She stirred the pot. I kept a copy. My heart immediately started racing. You made a copy? She shrugged. I thought it would be useful. Useful. As if secretly keeping a key to another person's house was normal. As if this entire situation was normal. I took a step backward. Leave. She frowned. Dinner's almost ready. Leave. Her expression changed slightly. Not anger. Disappointment. I made Leo's favorite. My blood ran cold. Because suddenly I realized something. She wasn't talking to me. Not really. This entire situation wasn't about me. It had never been about me. I was simply the obstacle standing between her and my husband. She put down the spoon. I've been thinking. I didn't answer. I think if we spend enough time together, you'll understand. Understand what? That this makes sense. I stared at her. Nothing about her voice sounded emotional anymore. She sounded calm, organized, certain, and somehow that scared me more. I love him. I took another step back. You need help. She smiled sadly. That's what people say when they don't understand love. No. I finally found my voice. This isn't love. She looked offended. How would you know? I almost laughed. How would I know? I was married to him. I share my life with him. my home, my future, and somehow she believed I didn't understand. At that moment, the front door opened. Leo. He had driven home immediately after my text. The second he saw Elena, his face changed. What the hell are you doing here? She actually smiled. I made dinner. I told you to stay away from us. You were hungry. Leo looked at me. I could see fear in his eyes now. Real fear. Not discomfort. Fear. Elena, leave. She looked at him softly. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Pretending. He stared at her. Pretending what? That you don't feel this. The silence felt unbearable. Because no matter how many times he rejected her, she simply rewrote reality. Every no became maybe. Every rejection became fear. Every boundary became confusion. And that was terrifying. Leo walked toward the kitchen. You need to leave right now. She stepped backward. Her eyes began filling with tears. I waited 5 years. We were never together. I know you love me. No. Yes. No. She suddenly looked at me. Tell him. Tell him what? That he loved me first. My stomach dropped. Because now she wasn't simply rewriting the present. She was rewriting history. He doesn't love you. She shook her head. You stole him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You were at our wedding. You knew exactly how I felt. No, I didn't. You should have. She started crying. Real tears. Years of emotion pouring out. I tried to be a good friend. I stayed silent. I stepped aside. Leo looked exhausted. You were never with me. She turned toward him. You smiled at me. Because we're friends. You listened to me. Because we're friends. You remembered my birthday. Because Veronica asked me to. That sentence hit her hard. Very hard. Because for the first time, he destroyed the fantasy. The version she had built. The story she had been telling herself. The reality where he secretly loved her. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then she whispered. So none of it was real. Leo answered gently. No. And something inside her seemed to break. She sat down, completely still. The confidence disappeared. The certainty disappeared. Only sadness remained. She looked around the kitchen, the house, the photos, the wedding pictures, our life. And perhaps for the first time, she truly saw it. Not as something she deserved, something she imagined, something she would eventually receive, but something that belonged to someone else. She quietly asked, then why can't I stop? No one answered. Because honestly, I think that was the first truthful thing she had said. About 30 minutes later, her mother arrived. Apparently, Leo had called her. Beatrice looked exhausted. Not surprised, just exhausted. The moment she entered the house, she looked at her daughter. Elena. Elena didn't move. Her mother sat beside her. You stopped taking your medication again. My heart dropped. Medication? Elena looked down. I don't need it. Yes, you do. Silence. Her mother turned toward us, and the expression on her face told me everything. She had seen this before. Not specifically this, but something similar. She becomes attached. Her voice trembled. Sometimes she builds relationships in her head. I felt cold, because suddenly pieces began connecting. The messages, the fantasies, the certainty, the imagined relationship. Her mother looked at Leo. I'm sorry. Leo didn't know what to say. Neither did I. Eventually, Elena stood. She looked at my husband one final time. No anger, no hatred, only sadness. Then she looked at me and quietly said, I never wanted to hurt you. For the first time, I believed her, because somehow that made everything even more tragic. She wasn't trying to steal my husband. She genuinely believed he belonged to her. As they reached the front door, she stopped, turned toward Leo, and softly said, I really loved you. He answered honestly, I know. The door closed. The house became silent. Neither Leo nor I moved. Finally, I asked, what happens now? He looked toward the empty kitchen. I don't know, but 2 weeks later, we would receive a letter from Elena. And inside that letter, she would tell us the truth about the 5 years she spent secretly loving my husband. For 2 weeks, the house felt different. Quieter, safer, but not normal. Every sound made me look toward the door. Every unknown number made my heart race. Every knock made me freeze. Leo changed the locks the very next morning. Installed cameras. Added an alarm system. Things we had never considered before. Because who prepares themselves for their best friend becoming obsessed with their husband? Nobody. At least nobody I knew. For several days, Elena's mother called occasionally. Not to defend her, not to excuse her, only to update us. She's staying with me. She's seeing her doctor. She's safe. Each conversation left me with mixed feelings. Part of me was angry. Part of me was terrified. And another part simply felt sad. Because 15 years of friendship had collapsed in a single evening. One Saturday morning, a letter arrived. Handwritten, no return address. But I recognized the handwriting immediately. Elena. For several minutes, I simply stared at the envelope. Leo looked at me. You don't have to read it. But I needed to. Not because I wanted answers. Because I needed the truth. Inside were 8 pages. 8 pages of neat handwriting. And at the top, for Veronica and Leo. My hands shook as I began reading. I know neither of you wants to hear from me. You probably hate me. Maybe you should. But for the first time in years, my doctor told me to write everything honestly. I kept reading. The first time I met Leo, I wasn't in love with him. I was jealous of you. You looked happy. You looked safe. And I wanted that. That sentence immediately surprised me. Because I expected obsession, not envy. She continued. Then he remembered my birthday. He asked about my mother. He listened when I talked. He was kind to me. And I started building things in my head. Building things. That phrase appeared repeatedly. Every small kindness became something bigger. Every conversation became important. Every smile meant something. I knew it wasn't rational, but it felt real. I stopped reading. Leo sat beside me. Neither of us spoke. Because suddenly the situation looked different. Not less frightening, but different. She wasn't describing manipulation. She was describing a fantasy. A world she slowly built for herself. I continued. When you got engaged, I told myself I would stop. When you got married, I told myself I would stop. But instead I convinced myself he was unhappy. That he married you because he felt responsible. That one day he would realize I loved him more. My heart broke a little, because none of it was real. Yet for her, it had become reality. Page after page described years of imagined moments. Things that never happened. Conversations she believed existed. Feelings she believed she saw. Signals that weren't signals. Love that wasn't love. And finally, the dinner was supposed to fix everything. I thought once I said it out loud, everyone would understand. I honestly believed Veronica would realize I loved him more. I know how insane that sounds now. For the first time in the entire letter, she used the word insane. Not dramatically. Honestly, she continued. When Leo said no, my entire world broke. Not because he rejected me, because I realized the relationship only existed inside my head. I looked at Leo. He looked devastated. Not because he loved her, because he finally understood. He had never encouraged her, never responded, never crossed boundaries. But somehow his kindness had become something else in her mind. The final page hurt the most. Veronica, you were my best friend. I know you probably don't believe that anymore, but you were. And somehow I convinced myself that loving Leo wasn't betraying you because eventually he would choose me. I know now that none of it was real. I hurt both of you, and I am sorry. Then, Leo, thank you for being kind to me. Please don't blame yourself. You never did anything wrong. And finally, I won't contact either of you again. I hope someday you remember me before I became this person. The letter ended there. No request, no excuse, no manipulation, only goodbye. For several minutes, neither Leo nor I spoke. Finally, he asked, "What do you think?" I folded the pages carefully. I think she was very sick. He nodded slowly, and very lonely. That night I cried. Not because I missed her, because I did, and because I didn't. How do you mourn someone who is still alive? How do you grieve a friendship while the person still exists? I didn't know. Weeks passed, then months. No messages, no calls, no visits, nothing. Life slowly became normal again, until one evening, almost 6 months later, Elena's mother called. Her voice sounded emotional. "She wants to see you." My heart immediately started racing. Why? Long silence. Because she's finally herself again. And suddenly, after 15 years of friendship, one terrifying obsession, and 6 months of silence, I had to decide whether I was willing to see my best friend one last time. For almost 6 months, Elena completely disappeared. No calls, no texts, no emails, no letters, nothing. And honestly, part of me expected the silence to continue forever. Life slowly returned to normal. Leo and I stopped checking the cameras every night. I stopped jumping whenever the doorbell rang. The locks simply became locks again. The house became ours again. Sometimes I thought about Elena, usually late at night. Not the woman standing in my kitchen. Not the woman asking to share my husband. The girl from college. The friend who sat beside me after my father's funeral. The woman who stayed awake all night helping me study. The friend who knew every secret I had. And that was the hardest part, because the person I missed and the person who frightened me were somehow the same person. Then one evening, her mother called. Beatrice sounded tired, but hopeful. She's doing better. I stayed quiet. Much better. That's good. Another pause. She wants to see you. My heart immediately started racing. No. The answer came automatically. Too quickly. I understand. Her mother sounded disappointed, but not surprised. She just wants to apologize. She already wrote a letter. She knows. Silence. Then she quietly said, "She's finally herself again." That sentence stayed with me. Finally herself. Because maybe that was the question nobody had asked. Who was Elena? The obsessed woman? The best friend? The patient? The lonely person? Perhaps all of them. That night, I told Leo. He listened carefully. "What do you want?" "I don't know." He nodded. "You don't owe anyone forgiveness." "I know." "You don't owe anyone a meeting." "I know." He reached for my hand. "But if you want closure, that's different." Closure. Maybe that was the word. For days I thought about it. Part of me wanted to remember my friend. Another part wanted to protect myself. Finally, I agreed. One meeting. Public place. 1 hour. Nothing more. The coffee shop sat nearly 40 minutes away. Small. Quiet. Neutral. When I walked inside, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked thinner. Softer somehow. The intensity was gone. The certainty. The strange confidence. She stood slowly. "Hi. Hi." Neither of us hugged. Neither of us knew how. For several seconds, we simply looked at each other. 15 years of friendship. 1 year of disaster. 6 months of silence. And now this. She spoke first. "Thank you for coming." I sat down. "You look better." She nodded. "I am." Her hands trembled slightly around her coffee. For the first few minutes, the conversation felt awkward. Weather. Work. Safe topics. Finally, she looked directly at me. I remember everything. I waited. And that's the worst part. She swallowed. Because I know how real it felt. I didn't interrupt. "I knew he loved you." That surprised me. "What?" She nodded. "I always knew." "Then why?" Tears appeared. Because I wanted a different answer. That sentence broke my heart. Not because it excused anything. Because it explained something. Loneliness. Fantasy. Obsession. Hope. Years of building a life inside her head. She looked down. "I think I stopped living my own life." Silence. "I watched yours instead." I didn't know what to say. Because honestly, that sounded true. She had watched us date. Get engaged. Get married. Build a home. And somewhere along the way, she inserted herself into the story. She wiped away tears. "The medication helps." I nodded. "Therapy helps." Another nod. "My doctor says I confuse love with safety." That made sense. Leo was kind, reliable, gentle, everything she wanted, everything she lacked. She finally asked, "Do you hate me?" The same question. Again. And honestly, months earlier, I would have said yes. Now, I wasn't sure. "No." She cried quietly. "I'm sorry." The words sounded different this time. No explanations. No fantasies. No confusion. Just regret. For nearly an hour we talked. About college. About our friendship. About my father. About her mother. About the years before everything went wrong. And slowly, I started seeing my friend again. Not completely. Not perfectly. But pieces of her. As we stood to leave, she looked terrified. "Can I ask one thing?" "What?" "Was any of our friendship real?" That question hurt more than everything else. Because perhaps she feared that I would erase 15 years. Pretend none of it mattered. I looked directly at her. "Yes." She started crying again. "Even after everything?" even after everything. Because people can hurt us and still have loved us. People can become sick and still have once been good. People can make terrible choices and still have once been our friends. Outside the coffee shop, we stood beside our cars. She smiled sadly. I don't think we can go back. No. I don't think we'll ever be best friends again. No. She nodded. I understand. Then she said something I never expected. Thank you for loving me when I wasn't easy to love. And suddenly, I remembered the girl from college. The girl sitting alone beside me. The friend who became family. Maybe she had been there all along, just buried beneath loneliness. As she got in her car, she stopped. Tell Leo I'm sorry. I will. And tell him he saved me. I frowned. What do you mean? She smiled softly. The day he said no was the day my fantasy ended. She closed the door and drove away. I stood there alone, watching my former best friend disappear. Not with anger, not with fear, but with peace. Because sometimes people don't leave our lives because we stop loving them. Sometimes they leave because both people need to survive. What I didn't realize then was that 1 year later, I would receive one final letter from Elena. And inside it, she would tell me something that changed the way I remembered our entire friendship forever. A year passed, an entire year, and for the first time in a very long time, life felt normal again. Leo and I traveled, worked, laughed, argued about small things, planned vacations, lived. The cameras remained on the house. The new locks stayed, but they no longer felt necessary. They simply became part of the background. Sometimes I thought about Elena, usually on birthdays, or when I passed places we used to visit. Occasionally her mother sent small updates. She's working again. She's doing well. She moved apartments. She adopted a dog. Small things, normal things. And honestly, that made me happy. Not because our friendship had returned, because she had finally returned to herself. Then one afternoon, nearly a year after our meeting, a package arrived. Inside was a letter and a photo. The photo was from college. The first week we met, two awkward girls sitting on library steps, holding coffee, laughing, young enough to believe life would always stay simple. I turned the photo over. In her handwriting, before everything became complicated, I opened the letter. Dear Veronica, this is the last letter I will ever send you. Not because I don't care, because I finally do. I kept reading. My doctor says healing means accepting reality. For years, I lived inside stories I created. Stories about Leo, stories about myself, stories about what I deserved. And somewhere along the way, I stopped living my actual life. She described therapy, medication, the difficult months, the embarrassment, the shame, the fear. But then she wrote something that stopped me. I need you to know something. I was never truly in love with Leo. I read the sentence twice, 3 times. She continued. I was in love with the way he made me feel. Safe, important, seen. And because I didn't believe I could have those things myself, I convinced myself I could. For some reason, those words made me cry. Because after everything, after all the fear, all the obsession, the answer was loneliness. Years of loneliness. She wrote, you were never my competition. You were my example. You built a life. You found love. You knew who you were. And instead of building my own life, I tried to step into yours. That sentence changed everything. Because for years, I believed she wanted to take something from me. But perhaps she simply didn't know how to build something for herself. The letter continued. People keep asking me if I regret meeting him. The truth is no, because he showed me the kind of person I wanted to become. And losing the fantasy forced me to finally become myself. I smiled, because for the first time, the story wasn't about my husband. It wasn't about obsession. It wasn't about betrayal. It was about her. Finally, at the very end, she wrote, you once asked me why I couldn't stop. I think I finally know. Because I believe being loved would save me. But the truth is that people cannot save us. We have to save ourselves. Then the final lines. Thank you for 15 years of friendship. Thank you for the years before things went wrong. Thank you for seeing me as a person instead of a problem. And thank you for loving me long enough to say goodbye. Love, Elena. I sat with that letter for nearly an hour. When Leo came home, he found me crying. What's wrong? I handed him the pages. He read them quietly. When he finished, he sat beside me. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Really thought. Peaceful. And honestly, that surprised me. Because a year earlier, I had been afraid of her. Angry. Confused. Now I simply felt peace. A few months later, Elena's mother called. Only briefly. She had accepted a job in another state. A new apartment. A new city. A new beginning. I never saw her again. Sometimes people ask me what happened to my best friend. The answer is complicated. I lost her. I found her. And then I let her go. Because the truth is, the woman who sat in my kitchen asking to share my husband wasn't really my best friend. She was a lonely person who had become lost inside her own mind. And the girl sitting beside me, on library steps all those years ago, she was real. She always was. Sometimes life doesn't give us happy endings. Sometimes it gives us understanding. And honestly, understanding can be enough. Leo once asked me if I regretted forgiving him. I answered immediately, no, because forgiveness didn't erase what happened. It simply allowed me to stop carrying it. My best friend fell in love with my husband, or at least she believed she did. She lost herself. She hurt us. She frightened us. But in the end, she found her way back. And perhaps that's the strangest lesson this entire story taught me. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most aren't evil. They're simply lost. And sometimes loving someone means knowing when to let them go. The last photo Elena ever sent me still sits inside a drawer. 2 girls, 2 coffees, a library staircase, before marriages, before obsession, before heartbreak, before everything. And whenever I look at it, I don't remember the woman standing in my kitchen. I remember my best friend. And I hope she finally found the life she spent so many years looking for in someone else.